So, this is a bit of a special day for me. Well, a parcel arrived in the post yesterday, and some of you may already have seen photos on Facebook that I now have the first copy of the Healing Light Tarot. This is a labour of love, to say the least. I put a lot of work into this. I've waited 18 months to see it in print, and I can't tell you how it felt to actually have this box in my hand yesterday. I'm really thrilled with what Los Scarabeo have done. You can see from the presentation it's cigar style box. What I love about this, gold embossed. I love the fact that all the titling is actually on the lid, so there isn't really a front or back. I kind of like the Queen of Wands, so she's kind of turned out to be the front of the box as I see it. But then you've also got the Chariot on the reverse, and on the sides you've got the Empress and the Hanged Man. So this is kind of one of the privileges of working with a publishing house like Los Scarabeo, is that you get wonderful design people working on your deck. So there you go. I think they've done a fabulous job. One of the things I'm pleased about is the card quality. This is very sturdy. You have the deck, and first and foremost I'll show you the book. Basically the book is the same size and format as the cards, so this is, I would say, halfway between a little white book and a full guidebook. It's bigger than one, but obviously a lot smaller than the other. Again, they've done a lovely job. This is all printed in sort of antique, sort of antique black and white photo style. There's one of the things I want to point out in here first is this, which is nice to see in the book. I'm dedicating this to Petronella and Barry Phillips Devaney. Penny and I worked on some tarot workshops together, and this deck actually arose from an idea that we originally had for a collaboration. We kind of didn't get anywhere with it, really. I think we were kind of working at cross purposes, but as a result I kind of set off and did my own thing, and this deck was born. So I'm massively grateful to Penny, because without her this wouldn't be here. I've also dedicated this to the memory of two very special ladies, no longer with us, which is a great sadness to me. In the tarot community, a lot of you will remember the incredibly funny, wonderful, sparkling Nadine Bernadette Roberts, who I was lucky to know a little bit personally because she lived locally to me. So we'd meet up every now and again for coffee and to exchange tarot readings. And Nadine was brutally and sadly taken away from us at the far too young age of 41. And I just wish she could have seen this. So this is, again, partially dedicated to her memory. And this is also dedicated to the memory of Suki Key, who a lot of my Albion Fairy friends would have known from Glastonbury. I met Suki a couple of years ago at a solstice celebration, and she saw the very first copy of this deck, and she was so encouraging, so warm towards it, and we kind of struck up a very short-lived friendship. And it was just a great sadness to hear again that she'd passed away at a very, all too young age of 61, I think it was. So this is dedicated to four very special people, two still with us, two no longer with us. So as for the book itself, you can see this is split into two sections. There is actually a long commentary in English, so you can see that each of the cards here have half to 2/3 of a page. For multilingual users, there is a bridge version which is translated into another 4 languages. So that's at the back of the book. We have, language-wise, what do we have? We have French, Spanish, Italian, and Chinese. So, yeah, basically it gives you the basics, not much else, but it does make the book a little bit more inclusive. So, this is, again, it's all printed in sort of off-whites, black and white, but with sepia tones. There's a little bit of colour. You can see my card backs there. Are actually printed in colour in the reading section. Onto the deck. One of the lovely things for this, for me, these were originally designed with white borders that faded into the images, and my editor had a fabulous idea of turning this deck borderless, so we now have borderless cards, which I'm really pleased with. I think these look wonderful. I'm also kind of a little bit grateful to my publisher because these are more expensive to produce, so yeah, this is great. The card stock on here, again, I'm really happy with. It's very slippy slidey, which is nice, but then again, it's also, if you can see, let me just see if I can catch a reflection on there, this is quite a glossy cardstock, so yeah, it's very easy to shuffle. I think if you riffle shuffle your decks, which I don't, you may struggle a little bit with this because they're quite sturdy, but they're not, that's not out of the question. But for me, this is kind of, there you go, you can kind of see the reflections on that. But then, as I say, you can also see they're very silky. So this, again, as an artist, you don't really have any control over this. You kind of, you know, you get your copy and you just have to wait and see how, you know, what's been selected by the printer. I'm very pleased with this. This will work well. So the cards are standard size, just the title card you can see there. These are, if you have a Rider-Waite deck, these are exactly the same size cards, so very easy to use. And onto the deck. I'll show you a couple of these through the major arcana. You have the Fool, the Magician, the High Priestess, the Empress, the Emperor, and the Lovers. Oh, the Hierophant, sorry. And then the Lovers. And you can see from these that I've actually used a lot of silhouettes in these images, and one of my biggest inspirations, one of my favourite artists and illustrators, is a guy called Jan Pienkowski, and he's predominantly a children's illustrator, but he works in a combination of silhouettes against marbled and textured backgrounds. I always loved his work, and even though I work in Photoshop, there's kind of something of him that's got into here. So you can see from these they're quite dark. I mean, there's two themes going on in this deck. The first theme is the Celtic theme of the time between times, dusk and dawn, which is very much sort of in Celtic tradition, the time when the veil between the physical world and the spiritual world was at its thinnest. So it's about a time when you are sort of most open to divine inspiration, revelation, healing. And then also in terms of healing, you can see here in every single card there is this oval shape where two spheres interlock. This is the mandala, which again is a healing portal. So what I've done on each of these cards is the mandala is positioned very specifically to show where I feel the healing aspect of each card is. So I think in a reading, it's not to make too much of this, but again, it's kind of just it's a pointer really. So a couple more there you can see is the Chariot. Strength, this is one of my favourite cards. Not a traditional depiction of strength, but it's kind of just how I see it. So yeah, moving on to the minor arcana. The same themes again, but you can see from these, I've stuck to traditional elements with these. So pentacles represent earth, swords represent the element of air, wands represent fire, and cups represent water. These are a mixture of traditional and non-traditional. I've stuck very, very closely to traditional Golden Dawn meanings. So anyone who uses the Rider-Waite Smith will feel comfortable with this. But the images and the way I've interpreted them are not always traditional. So you can see here, you've got the juggler that you often see on the Rider-Waite Tarot. But whereas the pentacles are usually locked in a lemniscate on the Rider-Waite, I have them within the circles that create the mandala. So it's actually the juggle of life, which is the healing process. So with my Pentacles cards, these are all the greens, rich earthy yellows and browns to represent the element of earth. That colour scheme kind of runs right through the suit. I mean, you can see there again, there is the 7, the card of unfulfilled success. And looking at the courts, again, these are all very similar colour palette. Traditional courts, by the way, Page, Knight, Queen and King. Moving on to the element, the suit of swords. I've gone for very cold air colours, so there's a sort of cold blues of twilight really, with touches of cold pink mixed in. And again, this colour scheme runs right through. You can see there the 2, the card of peace restored, sometimes the card of denial. She's got her eyes shielded by the sword hilts. The 3, the card of sorrow, the card of heartbreak. And the 6, the traditional card of the journey over water, moving from stormy waters to a calmer place. This card of stealth, the card of interference, and again going into the courts you can see the same colours. Going into the suit of wands, there we are. For fire, I've gone for sort of traditional oranges, reds, fiery colours. There we go. A few blues mixed in. Yeah, I wanted to kind of put some blue in here because I've always been fascinated sometimes when you get blue flames, so that's kind of found its way into here as well. So there we go, the card of celebration and completion, the 4 of wands. 5 of wands, the card of strife. That's one of my personal favourites, I don't know why. The card of victory. And into the court cards, which are very, very fiery. And probably my favourite of all the court cards, my Queen of Wands, and hence I was so pleased that they chose her to go on the box. Yeah, she's just, that's, of all the images I created from here, she's one of the 2 most special. So, and then there's the King. And finally, going into the suit of cups for water. Sort of very, this is all sort of pale blues, greeny blues, aqua blues, but I've actually put lots of tinges of colour into these, because with water for me it's also when you get rain with the sun shining through it, you get rainbows, so that's kind of found its way into here again. So there's the 2 of cups, the card of love. Just blues again for the 2 and 3, but by the time you get into the 4 there's kind of twinges of other colour. It's the card of complacency and stagnation. The 5, that's a very poignant card for me. The whole mixed happiness thing, the sort of, you know, 3 cups are empty, and he's focused on what he's lost or what he's failed on, but there's still these 2 bright, fully filled cups, and there's also the destination here, which is this amazing tower, so his journey's not over. There's the 6, the card of nostalgia. The 7, this is my other favourite image from the deck. I've always been fascinated by this card, and I don't know why. I think my fascination the passion and my fascination for this found its way in, because I think it's one of the best images technically, and also one of the most appealing. And the 8. And then again you can see, I mean, the rainbow on the 10 of cups. And my court cards. The Queen coming out of the water and offering a cup of water to whoever will take it. So that is a short tour of this deck. I mean, the only other 2 cards, as I say, are the title card. Interestingly, double-sided title card, which is nice, and the standard card that Scarabeo and Tarosophy now include in all their decks. So you've got, that is actually the Fool from the signature Lo Scarabeo Tarot. And you can see here, this is advertising the Tarosophy Tarot Association. Scarabeo have a tie-in with theirs, so that's basically just an invitation to join, and gives you some details and ideas of what they have to offer. I'm a member myself, so I can recommend it. So yeah, you might have noticed I'm very happy. It's kind of the joy and privilege that you get as a deck creator, that, you know, when a publisher as wonderful as Scarabeo picks your work up, you might have this long wait, but then all of a sudden this fabulous parcel comes through your door and you see all your hard work put into print. It's kind of weird to think that this is the only circulating copy at the moment, which is, thankfully, that won't be for long. I mean, we're in the middle of April now. The Healing Light Tarot is due to be published in the UK and in Italy and Europe officially on the 25th of May. And in the stateside, it will be published on the 8th of September. Although I have checked on Amazon, Amazon.com, and if you are stateside, you can actually order. It is listed twice with those two release dates, so chances are that you can release earlier. You often find as well with Scarabeo decks that they are stocked by Italy's Alida store, which is a fabulous, fabulous independent outfit. So that is www.alidastore.com. And yeah, I hope that you enjoy, if you get hold of this deck, I hope you enjoy it as much as I've enjoyed creating it. And yeah, I hope you feel as excited as I did when you unpack it. So thanks.